let's go ahead and move on to the first part of my stream. And that is my review for Darren Aronofsky's The Whale. Of course, for those that don't know, this is an adaptation of a stage play. And we focus on the character of Charlie, played by Brendan Fraser. He's this morbidly obese man. He's an English teacher who teaches via Zoom calls. And he's basically isolated himself from the world in his small, sad, dark little apartment. And, due to his health problems and multiple tragedies within his life, he's trying to restore his strained relationship with his daughter, his teenage daughter, played by Sadie Sink. A lot of people have been hyping this movie up for months. I believe it premiered at one film festival. I forget if it was Cannes or Venice or the Toronto Film Festival, Chad. Everyone's been saying Brendan Fraser has delivered such an amazing performance. But the one thing I have not heard about the film outside of Brendan Fraser's performance, like how is the rest of the movie? I've been very curious about that, Chad. And I've kind of been isolating myself from people's opinions on the film because I kind of want to go in as blind as possible. Though I have heard things back and forth, and just general thoughts on it. It's mixed. However, I kind of wanted to, before I get to my overall thoughts of the film itself, I do want to talk about my opinions on Darren Aronofsky. Darren Aronofsky is a filmmaker. He's very hit and miss for me. I typically like, his more grounded cinematic fare, like The Wrestler or Requiem for a Dream, even Black Swan, which, can get, pretty trippy. But that whole movie's like about the idea of obsession, how it can control you and it can drive you crazy. But, those are his films that I'm a fan of, that I think are quite good in terms of the direction and the writing and the acting, the performances in general. Though I feel like he can lose the narrative and become borderline either nonsensical or even ridiculous when it comes to his more fantastical films, stuff like The Fountain or Noah, where I'm like, all right, I get it. You're obsessed with the Bible. I understand, but I don't think this makes for a very good story or a very good character to follow within the film itself. And so I never know with him. Every time I see something that's like it's going to be very biblical in nature, I'm like, oh, all right, here we go. Now, I will say, the Whale is definitely more grounded and has more in common with films like The Wrestler. But I feel like this particular movie's biggest struggle is execution. Brendan Fraser, I think for the most part, does a really good job in this movie as this morbidly obese. I don't know if they even say in the movie how much he weighs. I think in all the marketing or they say he weighs 600 pounds. He does a great job. He's dealing with these multiple tragedies in his life, and also his kind of consistent self-harm, which is through binge eating, through eating copious amounts of food. We see in this film, like the character of Charlie, he has this kind of almost warped, diluted way of looking at people in order to protect himself, like from additional cruelties. And it's almost like a coping mechanism for in the movie. And, we see this through like the multiple interactions with people that he has throughout the film. And it's a small cast. It's Brendan Fraser and there's like maybe 4 or 5 other actors in the film. We have Hun Chow, who most recently was in The Menu. She played Ray Fiennes' character's assistant in the film. She did a great job. She's having a great year. She plays a nurse who's basically enabling him to continue her relationship with him. And I feel like, I don't know how about people have been reacting to her role. I feel like she is the standout of this movie. Personally, so her scenes with Brendan Fraser, while they can become quite heightened, like everyone else's performances in this movie, borderline melodramatic, if not melodramatic, I felt like her interactions felt the most real and were the big standouts for the film itself. I feel like she does a great job. I feel like she'll probably get like an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor, and I really enjoyed her performance. Also, another actress that I think no one is talking about. Now, to be fair, she doesn't have that much screen time, but we're also introduced to Charlie's ex-wife, where the reason why that this character, she played by Samantha Morton. The reason why she's his ex-wife is because he left his family and his daughter when she was very young to be with this man, because it's revealed that he's gay, and his partner dies, and this is what causes him to become morbidly obese and continue to eat, basically slowly killing himself over time. But Samantha Morton's in the film for a brief moment, and I think she does a great job, even with her limited screen time. Like, her and Hun Chow, I think, deliver two of the best performances in the movie, outside of, Brendan Fraser himself. And then we also have probably the third, big female role in the film, who gets the most screen time out of any of them, which is played by Sadie Sink, who plays Charlie's daughter. She's pretty much a sociopath in the film. She's crazy, and I know a lot of people have disliked Sadie Sink's performance. And listen, Sadie Sink is a very good actress. Obviously, people probably best know her for playing the character of Max from Stranger Things. I think she did a great job this most recent season. They gave her more to do than in any of the previous seasons, which she's always had stuff to do. But here, she really got to stretch herself in that season. And she was also in the Fear Street trilogy. I thought she did a great job. The script doesn't do her any favors, because she is so sociopathic that she's abusive. And like, the character of Charlie, and I get it. I think that, like, it's Darren Aronofsky's intention, or even the writer's intention, is like to show that he's fucking deluded and he doesn't really see what's going on most of the time because of his circumstance. He tries to see the best in people because he has to use it to cope. Otherwise, his life would be completely miserable. I mean, it's already miserable, but even be more so. And so he's constantly, like, making excuses for, like, the Sadie Sink character in the film. But she is just so aggressive. She's so angry throughout the movie that there's never a single time where you have, like, even though it's like, yeah, I mean, what fucking Charlie did years ago was really shitty, but she's just always on, and the word that defines her is just anger. And you never have, like, a moment of sympathy for her, and she's constantly yelling. That's the other thing too. Like, everyone's just so loud in this film, but especially her. And I feel like, I mean, honestly, I just found her grating. Every time she was on the screen, it's like, this character, she's obnoxious. And again, I don't think it's her fault. I think it's just the screenplay. It's not, they don't write a lot for her to do other than just be really mean and aggressive to Charlie and other characters around her. She's manipulative. She does some other things. I want to spoil it to some other characters. Like, God, you're a piece of shit. And you have all these other characters that are always like, but she's fine. It's like, no, she's not. We got to call this behavior out. And that didn't always work for me. But again, I feel like maybe that's intentional, and it really does show you how far Charlie has fallen, or how miserable he is. Where no matter what his daughter does, he still sees her as perfect. He literally describes her as perfect because you're my daughter. And his audience were like, no, Charlie, no. But it's weird. It's a weird thing, but I just don't feel like there's never like a moment of sympathy, and I feel like we needed that for that character to feel something other than just disdain for her. You have another character in this film played by Ty Simpkins, who is this kind of Christian missionary. I don't know what the specific terminology to use. He feels completely superfluous to the entire story. And it just feels like, I know Darren Aronofsky. I don't know if he's an agnostic or he's an atheist, but, he's always had these critiques against religion, even though some of his films contain biblical references. I just feel like he's there to be a critique on religion. And he almost feels like, why, I don't understand the point of this character. Like, why does he need to be there? It's just to point out, like, see, religion is bad. It's bad. And this guy's a fucking goof. Other than that, I didn't see the point. Like, you could have cut all of his scenes out of the film. It just extends the length of the movie, which I don't think it's that long. This movie is 107. Well, it's almost 2 hours, but yeah, maybe you cut that out. You could have saved yourself some time. He's not in a lot, but he just feels unnecessary, and he just feels like he's there because Darren Aronofsky wants to, take a dig at organized religion again, specifically Christianity. And listen, I'm an agnostic personally. I don't practice religion. I didn't practice religion for years. And so, I'm not like I'm offended. It's just like, I don't think you really need this character or this whole subplot. It kind of goes nowhere. I mean, literally just leaves the film like, all right, well, this thing happened to me. Bye, everybody. It's like, it's kind of unnecessary. But going back to my point, like, Hun Chao and Samantha Morton, in terms of performances, I feel like are very good. I think they get the best performances, followed by Brendan Fraser. And the reason I think that's the case is that even though I think Fraser is doing a very good job and not letting just like the makeup do the acting for him, I think there's always a risk that, it's like, oh, we got an actor, he's completely encased in makeup or a fat suit, and he's going to play it broad. It's like, oh, that's all it's going to be. The problem is, I feel like most of the time Brendan Fraser's doing the best that he can despite some of the material he's given and despite the direction he's given. I believe Aronofsky has him doing things that I feel are either exploitive or just overly comedic. There's certain scenes, but there's one scene in particular that is so ridiculous. I'm like, come on. Where after basically a moment with a character, Charlie goes off and he goes fucking crazy in one scene where he just starts eating. He starts just crashing around his apartment, chat. And it kind of reminded me of the scene from Citizen Kane. We have Orson Welles where he's in his wife's room and he just starts smashing shit. Imagine that, except if it's Brendan Fraser who is just trying to fit as much food into his mouth as possible. He's like, and it's like, and I'm like, I don't think that is how morbidly obese people consume food. I don't think I've ever seen something like that. And when it happens, it is ridiculous. And it's supposed to be, and the thing is, like, it's like, no, it's supposed to be sad. This is how far he's fallen. It's like this, no. It's so broad and loud and over the top and melodramatic that I ended up, people, like, I saw this in the theater, and listen, there are not a lot of people there. But the few people that were there, we were all fucking laughing. Okay? So I don't know what the intentions were with that scene, but they come across incredibly comedic. And it's in, I don't know if it's because this movie was originally like a stage play. And I know there's clips online and everything that people can check out. But in a lot of stage stuff, you tend to be a little more over-exaggerated, right? And maybe if they just approached it with a little more subtlety and realism, they could have done a scene like that. Not to the extent where he's literally fucking crashing into his goddamn apartment and just stuffing himself with as much food and then horrifically vomiting. The thing is, he becomes a prop. He becomes a prop in the movie. And we're meant to point at him and go, oh, he's disgusting and gross. And then he loses his humanity and he's not a character anymore. Then it feels like, oh, you're just exploiting him. You're just exploiting his disease for a really ridiculous moment. And I'm like, you could have cut that from the film and it would have been better. You would have been better for it. There's a better way to showcase his self-harm. And they do that through many scenes of the film and not been so gross with it. Listen, there's other things with him that are kind of like, oh, Jesus, that are gross. I'm sorry, but you're grossed out by him on occasion. And I don't think that was the right thing to do with this, because there are moments when Brendan Fraser is acting his ass off and where he is being subtle and not too broad, and he's delivering one of the best performances of his career, if not, his best performance of his career. But it's just like, why are you doing this? And I think it comes down to the script and Darren Aronofsky's direction. I don't think he does right by some of these actors. I think Hun Chao and Samantha Morton, they come out looking the best. But, Sadie Singh, I don't think comes out looking the best at all. And that's just because of the character is just she's just one emotion, that's anger. And that's just, it kind of gets, you get exhausted, it becomes tired. And then with Brendan Fraser's performance, I feel like should he be nominated? I mean, I don't know. I have to look at I don't even know who I would nominate for Best Actor this year. I have to really look at that category and go like, yeah, who were the best, performances? And, mine might differ from a lot of people's. But for me, I felt he came across cartoonish, and you don't want to do that. It just feels really awkward and weird. And so, yeah, it's a mixed bag of the movie. It has these really earnest, heartfelt moments, and you feel so sorry for Charlie, and you get mad at him because of his delusions, and like that all is great. But then you have these scenes which are just, I feel like, are just supposed to be ridiculous, and we're supposed to be grossed out by him like he's a prop. And I didn't like that. I thought that was not great. And I was like, now I understand when people are saying this feels exploitive, because it does. It kind of does. It's kind of gross. So, yeah, I don't know if I would give this any specific, rating. I mean, those performances of the two female leads, I think, are great. And Brendan Fraser, I think for the most part, his performance is very good. But, yeah, everything else about the movie I didn't care for. I mean, they use their setting well. I mean, they don't really go anywhere else in the film. It's very much a stage play where we're in his apartment, his sad, dark, lonely apartment for most of the movie. I mean, when we do go out, it's very brief. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't feel the need to see this I saw it in the theater. I'm like, this could have been on a streaming service. This could have been watched on VOD. So if I were to give this any specific rating, it's a high rental, very high rental, or if it's like the lowest of matinees. Maybe I don't know. I'll stick by like my high rental, chat. But yeah, that's just how I feel. I was disappointed. I wanted to go in. I was hoping for something like The Wrestler, which did not feel exploitive, and it has elements of The Wrestler in there, but I don't know. It just has these moments where it feels like we're trying to get a visceral, gross out reaction from the audience, or in some cases a laugh. And I'm like, I don't really like that. That's kind of weird to me. So I didn't, I didn't care for most of it, chat, which is sad, which is too bad. I mean, I want to continue to see Brendan Fraser act in things, and he's got a lot of other projects lined up, and I think he does a good job here, and perhaps I would nominate him for Academy Award, but I feel like Hun Chow and Samantha Morton do a better job. Hun Chow especially. I mean, she gets the most screen time. I think she's quite good. She's had a fantastic year. I think she'll get nominated, and I'm sure Brendan Fraser get nominated. But outside of that, I wouldn't nominate this film for anything. Maybe makeup. The makeup is quite good. On him, you don't realize like it's a fat suit. It's like, wow, this looks pretty realistic. And so, yeah, maybe those are the three things I'm walking away from the movie that I would say are the best. And Samantha Morton for the brief roles that she has in this film, which is good. She gets a good scene. But yeah, chap, not what I was hoping for. I was a bit disappointed. But at this point, I've kind of expected out of Darren Aronofsky. Extraordinarily hit and miss. And the last film of his I truly, truly liked was probably Black Swan, which, God, when did that movie come out? A decade ago? It's been a while. But that's just how I feel about the film. I'm curious, how do you guys feel about The Whale? How many of you have seen it? What do you think of Brendan Fraser's performance? What do you think of the support? I don't hear anyone talking about the other supporting performances of this movie, with the exception of Sadie Sink, who people are just like, are not liking. But again, I don't think it's her fault. But let me know. I'm very curious.